everybody. Justin here from The Sonic Truth, and along with my host, Chris.
Yo.
And today we have a very special guest, an amazing engineer. A lot of people may have already heard of him. He's everywhere on social. I know that much. I follow him on Instagram. But his credentials are quite inspiring. In fact, his personality is very inspiring. He's a very humble individual with the amount of success that he has had so far. So without further ado, shall we bring in our good friend, Steve Chadie?
Yep.
Hello.
Steve, how are you today, my friend?
I'm doing well, all things considered.
You're doing well. Are you awake on this weekend?
For the moment, yeah. I'm very much a night
Good
owl.
to hear, my man. So where are you currently based out of? You're in Texas?
Yeah, I work primarily out of Austin, and I live in Denton, which is 240 miles north because my family's here. My mom, who's getting up there a little bit, so I want to be spending more time with her and my sister. And in true fashion, I turned my dwelling into a studio. That seems to happen wherever I go. So when I'm not working, I work. Which I don't know what else to do. So I don't know what you can see, but
can relate.
I like to mix.
Oh, we see glowing lights.
Yeah, there's Neve back
fantastic.
here and a bunch of Audioscape stuff. Neve and Audioscape have been very kind to me. I very much appreciate that.
We'll get more into that.
Oh, we appreciate you.
Yes, thank you. So if you could share with the listeners a little bit about your background, maybe about where you grew up and kind of how you got involved into the audio side of the music.
Okay, first 10 years of my life, I was on the East Coast. I was in Boston. And in 78, we moved down to Dallas, and I started, doing band in school, stuff like that. Nobody musical in the family. I don't know any other musicians in my family. My cousin, he plays guitar. He went to Berkeley, actually. He's very good. But, man, I was studying music here in Denton at North Texas State University, or it's UNT now, University of North Texas. And I got sick of being here, so I moved to Austin, and there was this engineering program and at Southwest Texas State, which is now Texas State. They change every school's name I go to. I don't know why. I wonder if
They do that here too. Yeah.
Honestly, it was pure laziness that got me into engineering. I was like, what's going to take my music hours so I can get out of school and go back out and start playing? I had enough time vested in school where I wanted to finish. So I went to this sound recording technology in Texas State. Now is what they're calling the school. And there was a cat there that had worked at Willie Nelson's place, and he got me an internship. And bam, 27 years later, I'm still there. So
That is
it's
unbelievable.
that simple.
That's a story, Steve.
It's just pure laziness.
Now
What will
let's
take
go
my
back
hours?
a little.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Now let's go back a little bit. North Texas State, was it you started off at before you went?
Yeah, which is now University
And
of North
what were you?
Texas.
Now, what were you
I was-
studying when you were there? Was it music?
Yeah, I was taking all the basic stuff. I couldn't decide. I was taking some classical guitar classes. I was taking some jazz classes.
So you were also a musician.
Yeah, that's first and foremost. I've been on both sides of the glass. I've been on the other side of the glass so long now, meaning my control room, that I don't know, it freaks me out every now and then. Somebody will be like, go sing something, go play something. You get out there and like, oh, this sucks. I don't like being out here, man.
Right.
It's awfully bright out here. Can we turn the lights down?
Dim it down a little bit.
I mean, wow. I call it the fishbowl. All of a sudden, you're in the fishbowl. You're not the person outside looking in. So it gives you a healthy respect for how people are feeling, which is a huge part of my philosophy. It's all about, you got to be able to tune into people. It's not about knowing the gear. Yeah. You got to know the gear, but a lot of people can learn gear. You got to be able to read the room, figure out what's going on, be invisible while doing your job, make everyone comfortable, all that kind of stuff. Because you could be the most badass technical dude. and not get any kind of performance out of somebody.
Can't carry a conversation.
Oh,
right.
man, lab coats. Like in Abbey Road, they had the lab coat on. Man, that's so weird. I wouldn't wear a lab coat. I'd be like, what?
No.
Those guys had lab coats
That's
on.
a bit much for today's day and age. Yeah.
Yeah, not my cup of tea.
Well, especially, the vibe's a lot different. You know?
is.
Yeah.
So when you were offered this internship 27 years ago.
Yep.
What was the next step? How long did you intern? Who was your engineer that you were interning under?
Okay, that's
Give
a guy
bit
named
about
Larry
that story,
Greenhill.
if you could.
Sure, Larry Greenhill.
Okay.
He's a great guy. Still speak with him. Actually, I owe him some calls. He's up on the list to call him of who I haven't been calling back. Everyone's asleep, and I'm up. So. But first day was very interesting. I go in and we worked with a local band, and I've told this story a bunch, but that's how you know you're doing too many interviews. Have I been telling this story too much, man? I go in, local band, the office calls. They're like, "Can you stay? Because Willie's going to sing on a Beach Boys song." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I get to meet Willie Nelson. Cool." So the Beach Boys actually showed up. I was just like,
Really?
holy shit. Yeah, Brian Wilson, all of them, man, they all showed up. And then Willie shows up, and I'm just in the corner going, man, I think I'm going to keep doing this. This is kind of cool. I mean, I wasn't really starstruck. It was just like, it was so vibey, everybody making music. I mean, that's a hell of a team in there. The Beach Boys and Willie Nelson. I was like, man, this is this is really appealing to me creatively. And then I have a very strong math brain too, so all the technology made sense. I was like, okay, this is cool. And then when the computer came out, I was like, oh man, there it is. The turd polisher, man. That's the shit.
Did you say the turd polisher?
That's terrible.
That'd be the best
I
analogy
say,
of DAWs.
I'm full of shit though. I mean, I love what I do. There's a lot of good music out there, but you can get away with murder with the computer.
Yeah, sure can.
When Pro Tools first came out, when it was becoming more prevalent, Willie came in. He's had a Pro Tools joke. He said, "What did the Pro Tools engineer say to the band?" I said, "What?" He goes, "Y'all sound like shit. Come on in." I'm like, damn, Willie. All right. That was 20-something years ago, 20 years ago. I'm just saying, I'm a smart ass. Don't take what I say too seriously. There's a lot of turd polishing. There's a lot of good
but it's
music.
that type of personality, Steve, that runs the creative flow in the studio. You know what I mean? Your type of personality is what allows those musicians to stay level-minded. They allow to make it not so serious, because there are times during that creative process you're at each other's heads, and when someone like yourself comes in with that sense of humor, with the technical knowledge, it breaks the ice for them, and it allows them to get back to playing the guitar and to playing the drums. So, let's get back into, the people side of things. You're mentioning, you can run all the gear that you know how to use, but explain to maybe some upcoming engineers the importance of communicating and being able to gel with the various types of musicians and people that you meet with.
Well, you got to keep in mind that people are people, and when no matter how big a star somebody is, I mean, there are a few exceptions to the rule, but when they're coming in there, they're playing this piece of music they've made maybe for the first time for a group of other musicians. It's a very vulnerable time for somebody, and I mean, the jokes lighten things up, but you also got to know when to turn that off too. But if you're in, like I said, a lab coat situation, that is not creative, man. I mean, I love recording in houses. I love studios too, but I mean, I like recording in a house that's properly outfitted, because there's something about not being in this pristine environment that's vibey. So I try to make people comfortable, which I guess is my upbringing. I'm just friendly. I just like to. I'm going to talk to you. I mean, if you're super famous or something, that's great, but I'm still going to talk to you, not your fame. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You got it.
And that's so important. I think for the, the enthusiasts, these upcoming engineers, And I think we've all been there. You know, I know for me, when I first started off and I met some people that I looked up to, it was more of like, wow, let me pick his brain, not get his autograph, because getting the autograph was the last thing on my mind. I wanted to know more about what brought him to where he is or she is today, and what can I learn from that and help others with. And so many people today are really, the youth, starstruck. They get in the situation, their favorite artist or band comes in, and they forget they have a job to do while they're there.
Right.
So, yeah, maybe a word of advice for, upcomers who are maybe can't hold back their enthusiastic for this artist that may be showing up in the room.
Man, that's a real touchy.
Contain that.
Yeah, you really do, because, especially with phones. I mean, when I was coming up, you didn't have the iPhone. You had the same tape op in the can you read 4 times, and you're reading it a 5th time because that's what's in there. You didn't have so you couldn't whip out a camera and start filming somebody. It was a deal. You had to have a camera, and you couldn't be over there sneaking it.
Yeah.
I'm somewhat sympathetic to that, but only one time. It's like, hey man, you can't do that. That's right. Exploiting that vulnerability I was talking about earlier. This person is, you got to be invisible. You know what I mean? You got.
That's a great way to put it, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, I've even gone so far as to put speakers to where I could be not in sight of somebody. Just little things. I don't let the band out dark me, which is easy because I can see in the dark. I just keep it dark. If I'm darker than the room out there, you can't see me, then I'm not there.
That's awesome. I love your thinking, though, because it's so important to not get in the way, but always be their leader for them in the studio.
Yeah. One thing I have trouble with is, like, I don't input a whole lot. I don't give a lot of input, so I'm learning as I'm getting older that your input is valued. You just have to know when. But I'm the guy that just I'm totally into engineering, man. I'm not I've produced some things, but it's not my quest. I just like sounds and putting them together and getting cool sounds and trying different things. And I'm not in there trying to produce, but sometimes people are wanting my input, and it's hard to get me to give it. So that's something I'm working on. I get guys that on the first day, they're like, hey, man, maybe we should do this, that, and the other thing. I'm like, dude, just shut up.
Slow down.
Tomorrow. Talk about it tomorrow.
Now, is there let's say, for example, do you work hand in hand with a specific producer, or does that range for you according to who wrote the song?
No,
give me an example of what you're.
With Willie, it's all
go ahead.
Buddy Can is his producer, and
okay.
Buddy they'll cut the tracks in Nashville, and Buddy will either send them or fly in himself. Since COVID kind of changed some things, but I'll just work with Buddy and Willie, and we'll get the vocals and guitar. But I mean, Perdonalis used to be a commercial facility. I mean, we would run them in and out of there. I was just a machine. So I worked with a lot of different producers, Paul Leary, Andy Johns. Worked with Andy Johns for 14 years on and off with this band Titty Bingo. Man, the list goes on. So in some sense, like that non-input thing, that kind of is probably tied to that now that I sit here and think about it, because man, you're just blowing and going. I did 90 days in a row one time. It's just like John Porter with the Lonely Boys. Ooh. But, coming and going. So you can't get too attached at a commercial facility. Things have changed since it's slowed down. And when I'm here at the house, I just like to mix. I've cut some stuff here.
Yeah.
I don't like people up in my crib, man. I just want to, send me your files. I'll mix it.
Yeah, I feel you. I'm kind of the same way. I don't have a knee, but it's very similar. You got to have your space. Don't come in and my vibe up, please.
Yeah. Well, it's like a sanctuary in a sense, I guess to use that analogy, it's, so it's kind of, you don't want You know,
You don't want to have to burn sage after somebody leaves.
yeah, you know,
Oh my God, I remember
So-
in the 90s people doing that, walking around with the sage, man. I was like, what the hell is that?
Sage, dude. Yes. Totally.
Is that the new patchouli or what, man?
Yeah, I know.
I don't miss that either, man.
No,
that's funny.
but that's good. Now, during
yeah.
your whole 20, I'm sorry, during your time, 27 years,
Yeah,
was there a
27.
certain record or a certain project in which landed on your lap and you were like, how did I get this gig?
Not really. I mean, I know how I got the Lonely Boys gig, Larry Split. That's pretty much I'll mess with guys coming in. I'm like, I'm either going to have to drop dead or quit before you go and you can move up. So, start doing your own thing. It's meant to be encouraging, but I'm not going anywhere unless somebody greater than me kills me. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to quit. I'm not quitting. So
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Larry Split, and they called me up. They're like, "Can you do it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I can do it." And I was like, "Can I do this?" In my head, and I just did it. Yeah, of course you can do it. You've been there long enough. You just don't know it. I've sat over that patch.
Yeah, and that's
faking it, man. Just patching bullshit in to look like you're doing something while you're trying to figure out. What the hell am I doing? Where's that patch? Oh, there it is.
Oh,
Boom.
yeah, buddy.
As long as you're moving and have a patch cable in your hand, you look like you're doing something.
You're doing something.
Instead of just looking at the thing.
You always had the
everybody going,
empty molt patches you could plug into too.
Yeah,
Plug it in there. Plug it in there. It's like the producer button,
Do y'all
The,
remember that Beetle Bailey cartoon? It's pretty old. Beetle Bailey.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes.
yeah, I remember that.
I think about that. Beetle's walking around with an extension cord, and everybody's like, "What the hell are you doing, man? Why are you walking around with an extension cord all day?" It's because Sarge thinks I'm working. The sergeant was an asshole and all that stuff. And knocking my. So I think about that when I tell that Patchbay story. I'm like, that's Beetle Bailey's extension cord. I'm busy over here. Don't bother me. You're sweating though. You're like, what am I doing? You manage or you don't. I managed.
Yeah, I my first couple years as an engineer, I worked under Gary Platt, and I was always at the patch bay every morning for an hour, and he was telling me, all right, you got to patch in insert send here to insert send here. Man, the first week, boy, I was trembling. I said, man, I swear I took classes on this, but patching everything in feedback loops like you wouldn't believe. But it
Yep.
was that week of him on my ass every day. Now I was able to run it after that. No problem.
Right.
But I feel you faking by the patch bay, looking busy. Because when you got a room of musicians, managers, everybody else, and it's all on you now, you got to look busy.
Yeah. And man, let me tell you, if you're the one that's supposed to be calm, if you start melting down, the whole thing goes to shit in some form or fashion.
Yeah.
It's like,
So true.
if you're the dude driving the boat and you're going, I don't know where the controls are, people are going, what? You gotta you gotta
Ship
be able
is sinking.
to fake it in there somehow. But I mean, there's nothing like experience, like getting in there and doing it. You can't plan stuff
Absolutely.
that
Yeah.
happens. You can't plan some of the bizarreness that happens, and you just get through it.
No.
That's another thing. Don't be
And you
so.
got to be
Go ahead. What were you saying?
Yeah, I think I was going to follow up what you're saying. You have to be creative and not so stuck in a way. You got to be
Right.
creative with the moment.
That was really hard for me because I'm or I used to be. I had to have a plan. And with tape, you got 2 toms or 3 toms because I want them all next to each other. Blah, 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 And that guy would come in 5 toms and he said he had 2, and I'd just be like, shit. I don't want, you can't be so locked. Going in the night before and setting up, that sounds like a good idea. Bad idea. Because, especially with Willie,
Yep.
you just walk in with somebody, you're like, what's going on? Oh, this guy's playing now. Okay. Tape, that was a pain in the ass, but Pro Tools, no big deal. But you know what I'm saying? Trying to manage tracks. Summing mics together. Remember that? Nobody does that anymore. I'm just like, why don't you put those together,
yeah.
man? What do you
Well,
pan them
talking about
differently? No. Yeah. Well, then why don't you put them on one track, man? You know? I don't know.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, no, that's true though, because nobody really does that.
Thinks about that,
Yeah,
yeah.
in today's workflow, you know.
On a B3, it's
All right,
like
so can you give the
good. I was just saying
No,
on a
what
B3.
about the
I
B3?
mean, why not some the low end with the left and right or whatever, or however you mic it. There's a bunch of different ways. But if you've got two top
Yeah.
mics and a bottom mic, I don't need 3 tracks later on when I'm mixing. Just, pull the low end up till it sounds good and then record that. I miss the balls of tape. Nobody makes decisions anymore on the other side. I make decisions like, I'm going to sum this together. This sounds good. Let's commit to that. None of this. I don't want to puzzle later on when I'm mixing, I don't want to be coming up with stuff or having to decipher what I thought. When I recorded that 6 weeks ago, what was I thinking? So, but on the band side of things, nobody wants to go over a solo or anything. It used to be great. You have 2 tracks. Be like, all right, which one do I erase? You want to redo the solo that's perfectly
Correct,
good?
yeah.
Which one do you want me to erase? Yeah. Make a decision.
It's like less is more. Yeah, and you have too many options, and the lack of commitment, becomes a problem in the post stage.
And I think having so many options doesn't allow the creative person to be the best creative person they can be. If you tell them they got 2 shots at this and that's it, you're going to get 2 hell of a good performances. But if they know you can take over and over, they're just going to get lazy.
One more.
Yeah,
Right.
Let me try that one more time. Didn't you hear that buzz on my finger?
Yeah.
Or they'll see the value
So,
in
yeah,
what's on tape already. They'll think twice before getting rid of it. But if you have 99 playlists, nobody's thinking twice. I'll make a guy sit down and go, all right, now let's comp this now because I don't want to do this later, man.
Yeah.
They're all good. You
absolutely.
tell me which.
So
Go ahead. You're gonna have to,
So
just
during
have a
your,
buzzer for me.
Oh, no. You're cool in the gang. You're cool in the gang. So if you could share with some of the viewers, we want to talk about some of the gear here that you got here from Audioscape.
Sure.
And if you can kind of share, because we always get common questions as most up-and-coming engineers, like, well, why am I using the 76A instead of a D? And they hear it from us. But, we're here making the gear. So maybe from someone who's actually using it day in and day out, could you share some of the listeners on how you utilize the Golden 58 you got and the different pieces of equipment?
Yeah, sure thing. The Golden 58 I use on, I was working on a mix and this guy had a really mid-rangey, it was hard to control. I threw that through there just on a whim. That's the beauty of being in your living room. You can do things and a day later go, better not do that, or that's great, but you're not looking at the clock. So I thought, well, I'll have another side of that. I'll stick his vocal. That smoothed that right out. I used it on some mixes one time. It smoothed them right out. Haven't really used it as a mic pretty much because I mix primarily here. So I used it on
I was actually telling Chris when he first was working on this unit, and I believe we were running it through the stereo bus system of his setup here, and I'm like, dude, I need that on my stereo bus.
Yeah, it's great.
I
On
wouldn't
the
use it
stereo
like
bus.
you, Steve. Probably wouldn't use it for a mic. Yeah, exactly. The color and the characteristics of it are just very nice. Gentle, too.
Yeah, it's good glue, man.
I mean,
I like it.
Yeah, and even on the back end, using it, if you got a troublesome vocal that's been recorded, you send it right through that, and or if you want grit on the back end, if you want like some great natural distortion, you could still throw it through that on the back end, and it's great. I've used it that way. It's
Was that you,
So what
Chris,
else you
telling
got
me
behind
to
you, Mike?
daisy chain them together?
Oh,
Yeah,
that you?
daisy chaining them.
Yep. Or Trevor, one of us. We both love it.
Well, let's see what else I got.
I think we're daisy chaining this. Yeah, let's see what else you got back there.
I
man.
got a couple of the Optos. I don't know if you can see those. They're low. And then I got
Oh yeah.
And I got all 3 different models of your compressor, your 76s. So like I'll use the D on a DI because it's just seems to round out the bottom end and just make things big. I'll use the A on the amp just because I like that You know, and I like that, I like that it has a hiss to it. I like that. It's supposed to, it's supposed to have that in there, man. I hate when you get something, it's supposed to be 1176 and it doesn't hiss, that's not, it's a good hiss, you know what I'm saying?
That's
it's
not
like
the purpose of it.
That's
it's like, this doesn't sound like it at
that
all.
model, that revision is known for it. Yeah, especially that's got the highest noise floor. That was the one before the Ellen circuitry was added, and that's indicative of its sound. I mean, we try to get the hiss as low as possible. We can't really take it. There's some stuff you could do to lower the noise floor, but then it's just not that anymore.
Yeah, it's not a problem.
So.
It's not problematic. It's I like it. In fact, I used that recently because I was editing. Willie and Micah just came out with a song. That's Willie's youngest son, called "Halfway to Heaven" or "Die When I'm High." If I die when I'm high, I'll be halfway to heaven, or else I'll have a long way to fall. It's a pretty cool line. So the way the editing worked out, there was a very quiet intro. Actually, I'm thinking of the wrong song. That's a cool song, but this was a Lucas song, and it went to digital black. And there's nothing worse than that, I had to fade the vocal out because there's a little booger on the end of it, and I just put that on an aux, because then there was something there the whole time in the intro that masked. Man, your ear does not like digital black. All of a sudden, or mine doesn't. It's like, what the hell is that? That's an unnatural edit.
It's like, there's nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the worst when you hear that. I'm like, dude, that doesn't exist in the natural world, man. I mean, I'll add that on an aux sometimes, So that's a side trip there on that.
That's a tip.
I guess
That's a good tip.
That is.
I guess so, man. Because all of a sudden the edit. I love when my girlfriend Ray is here. She's always I'm not a professional. I'm like, I don't want a professional. We're a bunch of professionals. I want your opinion, because she'll tell me, and she started to learn the different sounds, like put it through that silver one, put it through, so she knows the different 76s.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, man. When I first got it, I was moving them around, and it's just, so I'll put the F on acoustic guitars, man. It's like, pow, hello. I love that.
Wow. Yeah.
Or any kind of real. I put it on a steel guitar too, but on acoustics, man. Like I'm about to double each one of them. I need a pair of each, so I'm gonna get 3 more once I get the other ones, the LA or the DA. What do you call it?
Yes.
DA3A? The DA3A.
Yep.
Yeah, the
DA3A.
DA3A.
See, and then
you're gonna love those too on guitars, acoustic guitars.
I know.
I've
got a pair down here that I love on electric guitars. I'm always wanting, and acoustics, man. One day I was out of compressors, and I was like, I'll shove it through there. I was like, oh, okay. Well, we're going to be using that on acoustics
keys
again.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, I did some B3 through them the other day.
Yep. Oh man, I bet that sounded awesome.
Now you float between multiple studios. Is that correct, Steve?
Yeah, the Willie has his own place. That's Pedernales. Everyone pronounces it Pedernales. And there's Arlen Studio. That's his nephew's. That's downtown. Willie's is out of town, about 30 miles. And I was running bands through there, but with COVID, we kind of shut it all down as far as like Willie and his sons or his daughters, if they want to come in, we'll do stuff. But I had the Supersuckers drummer in there one time since COVID, and we did some drums for an AC/DC tribute thing. But I'm not really bringing bands in there because I want to keep it nice and clean and I don't want to have people in there while this is going on, man. Still, you don't
want to have to burn sage.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we should ask the Dr. Fauci if sage works to get rid of. Is that how you say that?
Right. Yes.
If you inject sage,
he's now more concerned about the monkeypox.
It's interesting you bring that up though, because that has changed, the dynamic with of everything with recording and bringing groups into studios, and it's not
sterile. It's become a little sterile, like you said, the lab coat feel.
Yeah. So rather than do
in
that,
a sense,
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I cut you off.
Burn sage.
I was just going to say, rather than have, wipes and sanitizer and everything everywhere, I just don't have people in there. It's for Willie and his kids.
Just stay away.
Or I make sure, like, when
that makes it easier.
Yeah, or when I brought Chris, the Supersuckers drummer, in, I made sure Willie wasn't going to be in there for a month. He's off in Maui or on tour or whatever. So then there's Arlen Studio, downtown Austin, which is they have a lot of the equipment that was at Pedernales at one time, so it's very familiar to me. I like working there. The guys, Jacob Skiba produces and engineers out of there, Joseph Holguin, those cats, I mean, I could be dumb as dirt when I work on those. I'm just like, yeah, dude, they know what I set up, and they just set it up. Like I used to do for Larry. That reminds me of, I used to look at Andy Johns when I was patching stuff in. I'd be like, this guy, he said he doesn't do anything. He used to work with Hendrix and all that kind of stuff. He looked at me one day and goes, yeah, I used to know how to do all that, Steven, but, not anymore. And I'm like, I'll never be like that. I'll never be like that. And about 2 years ago, I was sitting down at Arlen going, oh, my God, I'm Andy Johns in respect that I don't get out of this chair. I'm like, hey, man, can you patch that in for me? Hey, man, can you run out there and do that? Like, dude. So sometimes I'll get up and do something, and they're all like, oh, Steve decided to get up and do something. I'm like, hey, shut up, man.
Mark it on the calendar.
Yeah, but we like to have a
Steve
good... I like
patched an insert today.
Exactly. And they're like, oh, this Patchbay? I'm like, in goes to out, dude. I mean, that's how the world keeps going, right? That's how we populate the world and all, man. As long as you can remember that, you're okay.
Same concept.
So,
Oh, shit. That's good.
Man, I mean, that's really the concept.
goodness.
Out goes to in. I mean, you just got to figure what
In,
that
that's
guy
it.
labeled it. Oh, yeah, there it goes. I can figure it out eventually. I just don't want to. That's why you're here.
Yeah.
That goes along with the...
Well, on
you gotta
this...
Good.
Well... With the comedy continuing on, I think it's time now I'm going to tag team Trevor to bring him in for a few minutes.
Sure.
Is there anything else you want to review with him real quick in terms of gear overview?
Well, not really gear overview. I know we spoke before previously, and you were talking about that the first time you were working with Willie and the Beach Boys came in, and you actually had footage of that. And or you found footage of that, I think. And it'd be great if you could get us that footage. We'd like to show that.
It's on YouTube.
Wow.
I think that.
I was sitting there with Mike. It's on YouTube. It's crazy. And Micah turns to me and goes, look, here's some footage of my dad with the Beach Boys. And I'm like, well, that's this studio. Look, there's the parquet floor. There's the edge of the ISO booth. And then I went, holy shit, that was my first day here. I'm not in it, but it was the first day I was ever.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, damn. So I guess the song is Warmth of the Sun. I mean, if you Googled, I came on it pretty easy when I was looking for it. I Googled, I think, Willie Nelson.
We'll
find that.
With Beach Boys. And that's the day. I was just going, wow, man. That's 27 years ago.
When was the last time Willie did a record with the Beach Boys?
I guess that was probably the last time.
That was probably.
I was just going to say, I don't think there was any other.
No, that's
well, it's just really cool. Your first day of like that is like memorialized. They have that, that footage, and that's just really
cool.
That's really cool. So when you were talking about that, I was like, oh,
go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was gonna say it was really cool.
It was really cool.
You must have a 7-second delay or something.
The delay.
I was just saying.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
The thing that's cool about that is I think it was Mike Love started trying to tell Willie how to phrase stuff, and in the video later they're laughing about that because that's absurd. I mean, eventually Willie was just like, in the footage he goes, well, why don't you just let me sing the parts I'm singing right? It's sarcasm, but you couldn't tell because this is the way Willie delivers, man. And then after they let him do his thing, they were like, oh shit, what are we talking about? And and they're laughing at themselves. So there's some of that human element. The Beach Boys are sitting there, Brian and Mike, and they're going, yeah, we were trying to tell Willie Nelson how to sing, you know? So that humanizes them. You know, it's all goes back to everybody's a human being. And I was going to say, when we were in the control room, everybody giving me a hard time and me giving them a hard time, that's camaraderie. I mean, I'm sure you guys do that around the shop. It's like, who wants to clock in? I didn't get in this business to clock in and be a stiff, man. I got in this business to get dates. That's a nice way of putting it.
Enjoy, learn.
Fun. Yeah, you know. And because even if I wasn't doing this for a living, I'd still be doing it. So I want it to be a good time. Even the worst of times in between the glass can be really good sessions inside the control room with periodic, you know, dickheads coming in to listen back, and then they leave. And then you're back in your microcosm, you know? So,
yeah.
Love it.
You can always have a good time.
Let me go and grab Trevor.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me go grab Trevor. And Steve, thank you so much for taking part on this front end of the podcast, man. Some really good information that you shared with everyone today.